Dr. Ndou, how are you doing today? Welcome. So are you at all concerned about how the president will actually handle the meeting with Donald Trump? Earlier, he said he will be selling the South African message that there is no genocide here in South Africa.
Good afternoon, Alicia. Good afternoon to the viewers at home. Thank you for having me. I'm doing fine. Thank you so much. It's important for South Africa to have an opportunity to clarify its position on the US and many other countries. It's important that when there has been a message that has been received and acted upon by the US government, which the South African government says it's incorrect, such would require government to present its case so that the stance of government has to be clearly understood. It is also important that the South African government has to mend its relations with the US, especially on matters that the president has raised that will relate to trade relations, which has affected the tariffs, which also has to deal with diplomatic relations. When there is an opportunity to create peace and relations with any country, and it also happens in human relations, such opportunity should be utilized because it is in the interest of everyone that countries and indeed human beings have to relate with one another in a peaceful manner.
I mean, Professor, I understand this opportunity to clarify this misinformation, but there's also concerns on the ground that this meeting could be an ambush by Trump on Ramaphosa, as Trump already knows this narrative of white farmer genocide does not actually, as well as race-based laws in South Africa, does not actually exist, and that he will just try and swing South Africa away from its support of Palestine at the International Court of Justice.
It's important that in the interview that the president just had, he talks about the sovereignty of the South African state. And of course, that in my view was actually to indicate that South Africa as a sovereign state has got its own standpoints, which is as a country, they have to stand by it and defend that on numerous occasions. It is a standpoint, in my view, that the government should be able to still canvass everywhere, whether they are meeting with the US or whether they are meeting with any other country, because that is the basis of what South Africa stands for. Of course, there could be fears that President Trump could utilize this opportunity and indeed hijack the moment to embarrass South Africa or to coerce South Africa to adopt a particular standpoint. And my view is that it will be in the interest of the South African government to clarify its position. And of course, where they think that they are very much correct, they should actually clarify their position, because our standpoint is known everywhere, and what South Africa is to do at this stage is to constantly canvass that position and make everybody join on their stance, because if they believe that there's a genocide happening in Gaza, that is what they should demonstrate to everyone. And indeed, it can also be an opportunity to canvass countries like the US to join South Africa in their own position.
I mean, Professor, Doctor, the notion of white farmer genocide in South Africa has been dispelled on so many platforms. Even white Afrikaners themselves have come out to deny that this is actually what is happening. And I said so earlier on in my introductory question that Trump, he does know that there isn't a white farmer genocide in the country. So now questions are, shouldn't Cyril Ramaphosa have rather than invited President Trump come to South Africa instead to clarify South Africa's standpoints on this matter. Why is he going to the US to go and clarify our position? Trump should be the one that also respects our sovereignty, isn't it?
Trump has already acted on what he got as the information that was communicated to him
by other
groups in South Africa. My view is that you might decide to leave matters as they are, or you decide to act. And in this case, South Africa has decided to act. Some people think that indeed South Africa could be put in a corner in order to adopt particular policy positions. But it can also be an opportunity for South Africa to clarify its own stance in front of everybody, and that will also expose other motives that the US, under the leadership of Trump, could be having. There are things that South Africa cannot be able to do. That will be to convince Trump, if he has decided to say there's a genocide in South Africa. If that genocide is not there, it will also be up to the world to realize that there are certain actions that are taken by countries like the US, which are not based on facts, but which are based on lies. That also has a potential to expose Trump's standpoint as to whether he stands by the truth or whether he stands by the lies.
I'm going to go with that final point of yours there, Professor Dr. Ndou, that hopefully we can expose those mistruths or untruths at that level as well as platform. We're going to leave it there. Dr. Levy Ndou is a political analyst there on Sir Ramaphosa's planned working visit to the United States next week.